Okay, it's 7:50. Let's get into Property Explained. And Tim Akinusi joins us today to once again unpack the realities of the property world and why you should get involved and what you need to know. Now, this week we'll be talking about the perception that banks avoid giving home loans to entrepreneurs. Tim, good morning.
Good morning, Mo and Kutso and Owen.
Good
and
morning.
Zanele.
Zandi.
Zandile.
Yeah, Zandi.
Almost.
Well, technically he was talking about me because my second name is Zanet.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Now he's saying, hi, Zandile.
Yeah, all the names at the bottom of the alphabet, they all start to look the same. Zadat. Is there any merit to this perception that banks avoid entrepreneurs? And why is there such a perception?
Right. So I think first up I'll say there is a lot of merit to it. To be honest with you, today I stand in solidarity with a lot of entrepreneurs, right? But look, having said that, right, it's not without, basis, and I think the sort of the reality is that when banks look at entrepreneurs, right, they have to consider the unpredictable, risky nature of their income, the multiple sources of the income, and where it comes from, right? So as much as I'd love to sit here and say, that's not something that they have to contend with, it's just the nature of it, right? But let me just explain a little bit more, right? If you're a salaried employee, right, you have a permanent contract, your employers are meant to, pay you, there's an obligation to pay you on a monthly basis, and your income can easily be verifiable because they'll just call your employer to verify that. But if you're self-employed and you have multiple income streams, right, and you today will earn R1 and the next day you're making 100,000, it's very difficult for a bank to be able to simply call every one of your sources and to be able to get a gauge on that. So what they have to do is that they have to then apply a rule that will give them a lot more time to be able to assess the average of your income. And that's where it stems from. So yeah, it's one of those funny things, I've come from a corporate space where I had a fixed salary, etc. And now as an entrepreneur, applying for my next, home loan for property, they were like, we don't quite know you the same way, Tim. You're an entrepreneur now, you're taking different risks. So we've got to assess your income differently,
100%.
And that was what sort of happened or happens in the case of an entrepreneur.
Now, how has COVID impacted the banks choosing to lend to entrepreneurs? I think this one is an important one because a lot of entrepreneurs are bouncing back.
Absolutely. So I just want to say that it wasn't just entrepreneurs that were affected, because if you think about it, also banks are constantly evaluating how they're assessing risk, right? So they had to consider the fact that shutdowns have affected certain industries. So if you're in the airline business, it's affected you. If you were in the entertainment business, it's affected you. So it wasn't just entrepreneurs, also salaried individuals had to take pay cuts. So of course, they are constantly assessing that and saying, how do we manage the risk while still being able to lend?
Sure.
So it's really just about how banks are making smart decisions to ensure that they're not overextending themselves or getting caught up in a reckless lending situation.
Okay, Tim, there are a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to this show. So let's talk about how an entrepreneur can improve their chances of getting approved by the bank.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, the good news is that banks actually, when they do lend to entrepreneurs, they actually go big, right? So
why?
So when I think, because of what I mentioned earlier, right? So if you're a salaried employee, your earnings are capped, right? So you can only get X amount of property. But if you are an entrepreneur and you have your papers in order, which is what I'm going to speak about later, you have the ability to actually acquire a lot more property. So we are seeing from the applications that we are seeing in our space, entrepreneurs actually get, twice the amount of home loans sizes than a salaried employee, right? I mean, we funded entrepreneurs or help broker deals at as big as 10 million.
Wow.
And the pricing on that has been as low as 4.5%. So you're talking about the ability to basically get a lot more out of a home loan application as a business owner than if you were salaried.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as a freelancer and I guess, entrepreneur, how would you get your paperwork in order to capitalize on something like that?
It's exactly just that, right? The silver bullet is that you need to be consistent about recording your income and expenses on a monthly basis, and then putting together a management account. You need to do that on a monthly basis. And the nuance there is that banks actually will require you to have 2 years worth of your financials in order.
Okay.
Right. And without those 2 years, right, that's where a lot of entrepreneurs get caught out because they're not yet, past that 2-year hurdle where they have made a certain level of consistent income.
Sure.
Or on the other hand, they just haven't kept any records for the last 2 years,
Sure.
right? And
Yeah.
so it's then difficult for them to piece together the last 2 years' income and expenses. And then that's when this perception that the banks don't want to lend to entrepreneurs, that's when that perception grows, right? So the silver bullet is really be consistent about how you keep your income and expenses and, give it a 2-year period because, like I said, what banks use to mitigate the risk of the unpredictability is time. So they need more time to be able to assess whether or not to lend you the money.
Would it help if you, let's say you are employed somewhere, but you also have maybe a business or two on the side as an entrepreneur, and you're wearing both hats?
Good question.
When you're approaching the bank, how then do you play it?
Same way, you've got to make sure that those added sort of income streams are considered by you having a consistent recording of that as well.
Right.
So then the bank would say, yes, you're salaried, great, they'll assess the income that you earn from there, and then they would, I think maybe a better example it would be if you own property and you're getting rental income, right? So you can then use that rental income to supplement with your application, and then they would take 60 to 70% of your rental income and consider that together with your application to ensure you get the size home loan you need.
Brilliant. Paperwork in order, 2 years of proof that something is coming in, and you are well on your way. Tim, thank you so much for your time. If anybody wants to engage you, where do we find you?
Please hit us up on mortgagemarket.co.za. We help entrepreneurs, structure a lot of their finances to help them make applications to home loans, or reach out to us on Instagram at mortgage.market.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you for your time, and we'll be sure to check you out a little later on. I see there have been a couple of tweets as well. I think what I'll do, Tim, you are on Twitter.
Yes, I am. Yes, we are.
Yeah, what's your Twitter handle? Because we're getting a lot of comments, so maybe we can just tag you in the questions that we're getting on Twitter.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's mortgagemarket_SA.
All right, brilliant stuff. Yeah. Tim Akinusi talking to us on Property Explained, and you can check him out on social media. Coming up next, we have news.